Welcome back to Donnan's Tips and Tricks. Today we're going to talk about mirroring. It's going to be a short video. We're just going to talk about how to use the mirroring tool and some of the different problems you can have when you're actually trying to mirror something and it's not working. So let's move on. So today, right now, I've got a half of a car. Okay, so I've got my half of a car because smart people only build half. We're going to build that out. We're going to model the second half of it. So we're going to model it over by mirroring it. Now, the first thing, I'm going to mirror along the front view. A couple things when you're mirroring, make sure before you mirror, you clean up some things. Number one, you grab your vertices, okay? And we want to make sure every single one of these vertexes is aligned to the center. Now, you can click on one individual vertice, hit the W key and see where it is on the x-axis, because left and right is x-axis. So if we have one that's off like that, maybe a couple that are like a little screwed up, this happens, right? We all know this happens. You're modeling and something gets adjusted and then you realize, oh no, like part of it is adjusted and we need to get it to the center line. All you have to do is select, I'm actually going to hit F3 so I can see just the edges. I want to grab all of these edges, hit R, and I'm going to scale them together by squeezing in, okay? Now I'm going to do that a few times. All right, we could align them to the center, we could align them to each other. All of that would be fine as long as it makes sense, but the align tool is not what we're talking about today. So I want to make sure they're all aligned now. If you look closely, now they're off center. They're all off by just a little bit. So if we were to mirror now, we'd have a weird seam that we don't want. So I'm going to hit W, I'm going to turn snapping on. I'll right click, making sure I'm snapping to grid points, vertex, and grid lines, which is my default. So turn snapping on by hitting S. Now I'm going to zoom in and make sure I'm snapping to this center line. Okay, good. Now I know when I mirror, it'll mirror across the center line and it should mirror perfectly. So each one of these vertices will overlap on their mirror. Now, the next thing to worry about, I'm going to hit F3 again to see again, is usually when you model, you may have a face on the inside. If you have a face on the inside, you will not be able to mirror properly. Okay, so I've got to make sure I select that face and delete it so I've got nothing in the middle. If you ever have a face in between two things you're trying to weld together, it won't let you do that usually. So that's something you need to watch out for. Alright, so now from the front view I'm actually going to mirror across. So when I do that, I get back out so it's set to 0. Now your pivot point may not be set in the right place either, because as you know, you're moving stuff around and sometimes something happens and your pivot point gets offset. So the way we adjust pivot points is go up to hierarchy, select pivot, affect pivot only, and then we can move it around. Once again, I'm using snapping to make sure I'm snapping. What I would do is I'd snap it to my center line here and then adjust it that way. So we're going to move it there and then it should be aligned. Okay? So now I'm actually going to mirror. So I'm actually ready to mirror. So my pivot point is set at 0, 0, 0, and I can double check that. Or it's actually not at 0, 0, 0, but it's X 0, Z 0, and that's what's important. Y doesn't really matter. If I wanted to, I could set it back some. So from the front. Now I'm going to mirror it. Now this button up here is mirror. And what it does is it gives you the options of what the direction you're going to mirror. The default is X, but we also have Y, which mirrors it along the Y-axis. We have Z, which mirrors it front to back. ZX, which reverses it and flips it. XY, which puts it mirror the opposite direction. So for us, we're going to hit X. Now offset would be if you realize your pivot point is wrong or something like that. Hopefully you've set your pivot point accurately, so you can just right click, make sure offset is set to 0. Now you may start like this where it says no clone and it'll just copy it to the other side. Since we're mirroring a image to try and half our workload, we want copy. Okay, we could also do an instance, so anything we do with the original works as well, or we could do a reference where all of our changes go over but do not stay with it. So we could adjust this but it wouldn't adjust back. So for now, let's just use a copy and click OK. Don't worry about that one, mirror IK limits, because we're not using any bones or anything like that. So now what I've got to do is go into the modify panel, okay, and set this up so that I can attach it. Now what happened is it created a new copy. So I've got, oops, careful with that. I should use Q to select things. So I hit Q. These two are not the same object, so I cannot weld their vertices together. So what I need to do is select my image, and I'm going to go down here to attach. Right down here, it's under Edit Geometry in your Modify tab. Go to Attach, and then click the other side. What that does is that makes it all part of one object. Now I can go into Vertex mode. I'm going to hit F3 so I can see through it. I'm going to select all the vertices in the center. Okay? All of them. So I should have, I have 94 vertices. Now, realistically, I've got, quite a bit of space on my center line, but you may have tiny space. Like you may have verts that are right next to each other. So you may have to get in and then hold Control, select some more to make sure you don't accidentally get ones you don't want. Now it comes to the welding part. So go down here to weld. We're going to weld, our weld settings are here. And now I'm going to make sure that my settings make a lot of sense. So 94 divided in half is 47. Okay? So let's see. So I should be able to weld with a very small threshold. You could actually find what threshold you can use by cranking it until things start snapping together. See the front there? I know that once I hit around 2.5, that's way too close. All right? Probably I can get away with 0.1 or something like that. All right? When I do that, I'm going to click OK twice, and I'm at 47. That means half of my vertices are gone, which means I have welded this thing perfectly. Now when I render it, you'll notice that because it was two images, I've got, usually, I may have problems with my smoothing groups. We'll see if that's the case this time. No, actually it looks great. So that's the basics of welding. I hope that helps. I know that right now in the class there's a lot of people trying to make something half and half. So that's a good way to do it. Make sure you're only working as hard as you have to and not any harder. All right? Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time on Donnan's Tips and Tricks.